Welcome to this explainer. Most of us are kind of conditioned from day one to treat our minds like this, static reservoir. It's like we think we just fill it up with formal education early on in life, and then we just lazily draw from that same well for the rest of our careers. But what if we completely flip that paradigm? What if your mind is actually this highly sensitive, incredibly dynamic ecosystem? An ecosystem that literally requires constant, rigorous maintenance so it doesn't just go obsolete? Well, today we are going to explore exactly how to maintain that system, together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider the number 95. Now, that wasn't just the age at which the legendary thinker Peter Drucker passed away. That was the astounding age up to which he maintained absolute peak productivity, profound relevance, and a razor-sharp intellect. I mean, for over 7 decades, he stayed at the absolute forefront of his field. So the big question is, how? How exactly did he avoid that intellectual stagnation and fatigue that just completely derails so many professionals?
Well, that is exactly what we're going to break down today. You can think of this agenda as your personal mental maintenance manual. We're going to cover 1. The 90-year edge, 2. Being your own CEO, 3. The art of planned abandonment, 4. Methodologies for mental clarity, and finally, 5. Living in multiple worlds. Let's get right into it.
Starting right off with Section 1, the 90-year edge, and the mystery of the perennial mind.
You see, while most professionals just watch their intellectual capital slowly depreciate over time, or they let their thinking calcify into this rigid, stubborn expertise, Drucker's mind just kept growing. It became more expansive. And his longevity, it absolutely wasn't the result of some rare biological luck. It was a deliberate, systemic project of continuous renewal. He designed his life to ensure he never became a prisoner of his own past successes. His secret was adopting a very specific lens. He treated himself as a social ecologist. He wasn't just a management guru, right? He actually considered himself a historian first and a social ecologist second. He viewed his primary field of management as a liberal art, a discipline that was heavily focused on people, on values, and on human nature. And that broad, systemic perspective, that was the secret weapon that kept him so sharp.
Moving right along to Section 2, being your own CEO, and the absolute necessity of radical self-knowledge.
To maintain your edge, you can't just constantly look outward at the shifting market. You have to look inward. Radical self-knowledge is the foundation of this entire system. Without it, none of the other tools are going to work. This quote really captures it perfectly. Knowledge workers must, in effect, be their own chief executive officers. Think about it. In our society of highly mobile professionals, no corporation, no boss, and honestly, no mentor is going to manage your lifelong development for you. You are the ultimate executive in charge of your own mind. You entirely own your intellectual trajectory.
So, I have to ask you directly, how do you manage yourself? Seriously, take a second to do a personal audit of your own daily habits right now. Are you just operating on autopilot, frantically reacting to emails and putting out fires? Or are you actively managing your intellectual assets with real intention? To manage himself, Drucker relied on a brilliant framework built around 5 fundamental questions. Check these out. What are my strengths? How do I perform? What are my values? Where do I belong? And what can I contribute? He used these questions as daily diagnostic tools. The goal here isn't to fix every minor flaw you have. Actually, scratch that, it's the exact opposite. It's about finding exactly where your personal performance style and your values intersect with the specific requirements of a situation. It's about leaning entirely into your unique capabilities.
And this brilliantly illustrates the engine behind identifying those actual strengths, the feedback analysis loop. This is so cool. Whenever Drucker made a really critical decision or prediction, he literally wrote down his expected results. Then, he would patiently wait 6 to 12 months and clinically compare the actual outcomes against his initial expectations. This kind of clinical audit uncovers exactly where your judgment is consistently sound, and it exposes your flawed assumptions without wasting a drop of energy on directionless self-improvement fads. A really crucial subset of that self-knowledge is understanding your unique performance style. Ask yourself right now, are you a reader or are you a listener? I know, it sounds almost too simple, but it is profound. Do you process complex information best by reading a detailed report in total silence? Or do you need to listen to someone brief you and talk it out? If you don't actually know your optimal learning style, you are creating massive, totally unnecessary friction in your own intellectual growth.
Which brings us to Section 3, the art of planned abandonment and the magic of clearing mental white space.
Here is where we shift from just observing the mind to actively pruning it.
Staying sharp isn't just about hoarding new data. You have to actively clear out the old stuff. You literally have to systematically abandon what Drucker called yesterday's logic. The greatest danger in turbulent times isn't the turbulence itself. No way. It's trying to navigate that turbulence using outdated processes and assumptions. True innovation requires ruthlessly shedding obsolete knowledge. You have to create mental white space. Drucker constantly asked himself, if I wasn't already doing this, would I start doing it now? And if the answer was no, he abandoned it immediately.
So how do you actively fill up that fresh white space? You use the 3-year reinvention rule. Every 3 years, Drucker committed to studying a completely unrelated subject. I mean, he might dive deep into Japanese art for 3 years, then pivot entirely over to medieval history, and then jump straight into economics. By studying fields that had absolutely no direct connection to his primary expertise, he literally forced his brain to build brand new neural pathways. It is the ultimate cure for the kind of blindness that usually plagues narrow specialists.
Next up is Section 4, Methodologies for Mental Clarity and How to Refine Your Thinking Tools. Let's move to see how this builds, because we know the high-level strategy now, but how did Drucker actually act out his maintenance protocols on, say, a random Tuesday? Well, he used very specific tools. He used writing not just to jot down thoughts, but as a rigorous crucible for clarifying his ideas and testing his own logic. He used teaching for over 60 years because he knew that trying to explain a subject instantly exposes the hidden gaps in your own understanding. In his consulting work, he prioritized inquiry, asking profound questions to approach old problems with fresh eyes. And finally, observation. He relentlessly tested all his theories against the messy, unpredictable reality of actual organizations, completely avoiding the trap of pure academic abstraction.
But here's the catch. Literally none of those tools work without ruthless strategic focus, specifically managing the giant gap between perceived effort and actual logged time. Drucker rigorously managed his most limited resource by famously tracking his actual time. He recognized early on that what we think we do all day and what we actually do are almost never the same thing. This extreme discipline allowed him to fiercely protect uninterrupted 90-minute morning blocks for deep, belligerently reclusive thinking. Now, good luck trying that today with a smartphone buzzing in your pocket, right? But the discipline itself remains absolutely vital.
Finally, we hit Section 5, living in multiple worlds and staying grounded in reality. To maintain your perspective across 7 decades of massive global change, you cannot isolate yourself in some cozy intellectual silo. You have to systematically interact with the wider outward world. Drucker achieved this through parallel careers. He was never just one thing. He was a writer, a teacher, a consultant, and a deeply dedicated contributor to the nonprofit sector. This kind of cross-pollination completely prevented intellectual fatigue. But even more importantly, it allowed him to spot massive societal shifts, like the rise of the knowledge worker, long before the specialists who were stuck in just one world ever saw it come.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that intellectual longevity is not a biological gift. It is a deliberate cycle of systematic renewal. Which leads me to ask you directly, what will you start abandoning today? Take a hard look at your own work, your habits, your industry. What outdated assumptions and yesterday's logic do you need to ruthlessly shed right now to make room for your future?
I want to leave you with this incredible, lingering challenge from Drucker himself. What are you going to do on Monday that's different? Seriously, don't let this just be another explainer you consume, nod along to, and immediately forget. Take ownership. Audit your judgment, practice some planned abandonment, and diversify your intellectual worlds. Your mind is a system, so start maintaining it today.